This is the story of a company that sold 1 out of every 5 toys in America and still ended up dead. When Toys R Us liquidated in 2018, the obituaries all said the same thing: Amazon killed it. Kids stopped going to toy stores. The internet won. It's a clean story, and it's wrong. The year before it collapsed, Toys R Us was operationally profitable. The thing that killed it wasn't a website. It was a single transaction signed 13 years earlier that guaranteed the company would spend the rest of its life working for someone else. This is the Liquidation Files. Open the folder. Start with the founder, because his story bookends this one in a way that still stings. In 1948, a young Army veteran named Charles Lazarus opened a baby furniture store in Washington, D.C. Customers kept asking if he sold toys. So he started selling toys. That instinct, just give families what they're asking for, became Toys R Us, the warehouse-sized wonderland with the backwards R, the birthday club, and a giraffe named Jeffrey. For 2 generations of American kids, this wasn't a store. It was a destination. By the time Lazarus stepped back, the company he built from a single furniture shop was the biggest toy seller on the planet. But by the early 2000s, the company was wobbling. Walmart and Target had figured out they could sell toys at brutal prices, eat the losses, and make it up everywhere else in the store. Toys R Us couldn't do that because toys were the whole business. The stock slid. And in corporate America, a famous brand with a sagging stock price is like blood in the water. In 2005, the sharks arrived, 3 of them, working together. KKR, one of the oldest private equity firms in the world, Bain Capital, the firm that prided itself on fixing retailers, and Vornado Realty Trust, a real estate giant. Together they bought Toys R Us for $6.6 billion and took it private, each owning an equal share. Now here's the part of the deal that decided everything that followed, and if you watched our Red Lobster file, you already know where this is going. Of that $6.6 billion purchase price, the 3 buyers put in only about $1.3 billion of their own money. The other $5.3 billion, roughly 80% of the deal, was borrowed. And here's the trick that makes the whole machine run. The buyers didn't owe that money. Toys R Us did. The debt used to buy the company was loaded onto the company itself. Imagine someone taking out a mortgage to buy your house and then handing you the mortgage payments. That's a leveraged buyout. From that day forward, Toys R Us woke up every morning owing money on its own acquisition. The bill came to roughly $400 million a year, not paying down the debt, just servicing it. $400 million every year, off the top, before a single toy hit a shelf. Let's put that number next to the one everybody blames. People say Toys R Us died because it couldn't compete online, because its website was slow, its stores were dingy, its prices were high. All true. But ask why. A company hemorrhaging $400 million a year in interest has nothing left to invest. While Walmart and Amazon were pouring billions into e-commerce, faster shipping, and cleaner stores, Toys R Us was writing checks to bondholders. The debt didn't just weaken the company, it ate the exact dollars that could have saved it. And the e-commerce wound has an extra twist of the knife. Back in 2000, Toys R Us actually made a bold internet move. It signed a 10-year deal making it the exclusive toy seller on Amazon. Think about that. At the dawn of online shopping, Toys R Us was the toy store on Amazon. But Amazon began allowing other toy sellers onto the platform anyway. Toys R Us sued, and years later a court agreed and let it out of the deal, but by then it had spent the most important decade in internet history renting its online presence from its future executioner. When the divorce came through, it had no e-commerce muscle of its own, and thanks to the buyout, no money to build any. Meanwhile, and this is the detail that separates a bad investment from something uglier, the owners were getting paid either way. Under an advisory agreement signed alongside the buyout, KKR, Bain, and Vornado charged Toys R Us for their own advice, $183 million in advisory fees, about $61 million to each firm. Count all the fees and interest they collected over the years they owned it, and the total comes to roughly $464 million flowing from the drowning company up to the people who threw it in the water. The company could sink or swim, the owners billed by the hour either way. They did try to cash out the normal way. In 2010, they filed to take Toys R Us public again to sell it back to the stock market and walk away with a profit. But the company's numbers, crushed under the debt, were too ugly to sell. The IPO sat on the shelf for years and was finally withdrawn. From that point on, the exits were closed. The owners wrote their investment down toward zero, and the company limped forward, cutting costs, deferring maintenance, and falling further behind every year. September 2017. With about $5 billion in debt still on the books and the holiday season approaching, Toys R Us filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The plan at first was survival, to restructure the debt and keep the stores open. But that Christmas season came in weak, the lenders lost patience, and in March 2018 the company announced the unthinkable: total liquidation. Not a downsizing. Everything. Roughly 800 U.S. stores closed. 33,000 people lost their jobs. And here's the detail that turned this from a business story into a national outrage. Those 33,000 workers were initially told there would be no severance. Nothing. Meanwhile, the court records showed executives had been approved for millions in bonuses months before the end, and the owners had collected their $464 million in fees. Laid-off workers, some with 20 and 30 years at the company, organized, protested, and took the fight directly to KKR and Bain. And it worked partially. Under public pressure, 2 of the 3 owners eventually put $20 million into a hardship fund for former employees. Vornado declined, $20 million against $464 million collected. You can do that math yourself. One more date, March 22, 2018. The same month the liquidation was announced, Charles Lazarus died at 94. The man who built the company from a furniture store outlived it by a matter of days. The founder and the company went down together 70 years after he opened his doors because customers kept asking for toys. So let's close this file with the actual cause of death. Toys R Us did not die of Amazon. It died of a 2005 leveraged buyout that borrowed $5.3 billion in the company's own name, drained $400 million a year that should have gone into stores and technology, and paid the owners hundreds of millions of dollars in fees while the ship took on water. Amazon was the current. The debt was the anchor. A company selling one of every 5 toys in America doesn't drown in a current. It drowns because someone chained it to the bottom, and if that structure sounds familiar, it should. It's the same playbook from our Red Lobster file, with one difference. Red Lobster's buyers took the real estate. Toys R Us's buyers took the fees. The asset changes, the autopsy report doesn't. There's a whole shelf of these files, Sears, Payless, and a dozen brands you grew up with, and the next one might be the strangest of all, the CEO who was accused of dismantling his own company while betting on the pieces. If you want more files like this one, the companies you grew up with, and the deals that quietly hollowed them out, that's what we do here at the Liquidation Files. The next file is already open. I'll see you in that one.